The Curious Case of Benjamin Beatdowns, part 147.
Yeah.
He's on your left playing Blue-White Geist. I would assume the same list or very close to the one that we saw Margaret Herholtz play in round 1, as the two of them were talking about this deck Friday at the office before.
Oh, working hard.
Hardly working.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's on your left. Ben, a player, he's sort of in the background now, doesn't play as much Magic as he used to, but I think 3 or 4 Grand Prix top 8s, lost
national team appearance.
National team, lost playing for top 8 of the Pro Tour. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, he was, one of numerous people who have at one time been labeled the future of American Magic.
Yes, someone I did not want to play given the opportunity. Sean Johnson is his opponent on the right with blue-white-red mid-range. And we saw this matchup actually round 1.
Yes.
Mark Herholtz was playing blue-white Geist. His opponent was playing blue-white-red mid-range. And, I mean, we went to 3 games. The games were close, very entertaining. I expect more of the same here. Very similar matchup, very similar builds of deck as well. So it'll be interesting. We'll see, as both players have just started making their initial land drops. Ben has done some cantripping with Thought Scour. And we'll see if he has the Geist to get things rolling here on turn 3.
Yep, Sean with all of his colored mana, leading off with Siemens, Clifftop Retreat, and now Sulphur Falls.
And we're going to see Ben cycle the Azorius Charm on the end step. No Geist of St. Traff from either player, so we're going to move right on to the mid-game here without the troublesome 2-2 being in play.
Ben without a 4th land, so he's going to look for it with Thought Scour.
And he does find it.
Finds a Plains, and a creature for his Moreland Haunt as well. So
just how he drew it up.
Yeah, not a bad turn.
And we're going to see Sean take a similar approach, cycling a Azorius Charm on Ben's end step and get himself a new card. See if he is lacking in the lands department or not. He drew an Azorius Charm. And he has a Desolate Lighthouse. So he has 1 copy of Desolate. He actually has 1 copy of Desolate Lighthouse, 1 copy of Moreland Haunt, and 1 copy of Slayer's Stronghold. So he actually has 3 colorless lands in his deck, and you won't find any Cavern of Souls here.
The Stronghold strikes me as greedy. Desolate Lighthouse and Moreland Haunt are pretty awesome.
Yeah. Stronghold might be a little bit on the greedy side, but we'll see. I mean, it could be a game breaker. I mean, it's one heck of a card, provides a unique effect. Lets Restoration Angel actually beat opposing Restoration Angels in fights. So we'll see, as we do see Sean cast Restoration Angel when Ben tapped out. Ben cast Restoration Angel when Sean tapped out. So we just want to get those in play.
Neither player really maximizing their Angels here. Just want to get some stuff into play. Definitely a priority for Ben with a deck full of unsummons and Feeling of Dreads. The pressure is on him to be very aggressive, not try to get too concerned with value. Maximize his mana and get on the board as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, as we do see a Clifftop Retreat here, and now we are going to see a Geist of St. Traff, and that's probably the most important card in this matchup, hit play. Could have seen a Thundermaw Hellkite there from Sean, would have been a pretty big beating actually, as he does have 2 copies of those in his deck, but he does not have one just yet.
Ben has just drawn his own Geist of St. Traff, so we might move to Legend Rule here. Although it's unclear how much Ben actually cares about it. All right, he's going to cast it.
He cares enough.
Cares enough. Say when you have Restoration Angel back on D, maybe you're willing to let that thing stick and do other things with your mana, but it is a big risk allowing it to be in play. So,
sliding through Ben's hand, you do see 2 copies of Unsummon along with a Restoration Angel and a Feeling of Dread. So his hand's pretty good as far as establishing the tempo game goes. He just needs to get a little bit further ahead on board so he can keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Sean is just going to pass his turn back. One card that you do see in Sean's hand that you don't typically find in these blue-white-red mid-range builds, Patrick, is 2 copies. He has 2 copies, 1 in his hand, of Essence Scatter.
Yeah, and Essence Scatter I know gets a lot of flack because of Cavern of Souls, but I actually think it's dramatically underplayed card in the format. A lot of these decks have a variety of creature types, and so Cavern they set it on one thing, but you can still count on the other thing. Some of these decks can't even afford to play Cavern anymore because they have enough colored spells where they're leaning on Ravnica duels more than Caverns. And so I'm a big fan of the card in the metagame, even though it gets a lot of flack because of Cavern. So an end of turn Angel from Sean, met by an end of turn Angel from Ben.
Seems like we've seen this before, as we see Sean does draw a 3rd Restoration Angel. Now, the thing for Sean here that he has to be careful of is, he's sliding in Restoration Angels through counter magic, yes, but one card that Ben does have is Feeling of Dread. He has copies of that card in his deck, and he has a copy of it in his hand right now. Yeah. And Feeling of Dread is, 2 creatures, obviously. It just lines up perfectly for what Ben wants to accomplish. tap those things, get the beats in, do it again, get the beats in again, and then just kind of tempo you out.
Yeah, it's, you know, if and particularly if Sean hasn't done a lot of either testing of the matchup or hasn't really seen this deck before, being unaware of Feeling of Dread can lead to playing the game very incorrectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not popular. It's not a popular card yet, or it's not popular enough that people are used to thinking, okay, Feeling of Dread. You know, it's not a card that comes to the forefront, as you are going to see him cast one right now. So Ben will take care of those 2 angels for now, and you are going to see him serve across. And there you're going to see a Restoration Angel here from Sean, the 3rd one of the game. And you're going to see an Unsummon here from Ben. Get that out of the way.
Yeah, Ben's already committed to this attack, even though that's not an ideal use of Unsummon, rather. He doesn't have a choice. He's committed.
Now we do see Sean just pick up that Restoration Angel. He's going to take 7 to the face and move down to 13. And now those angels will untap. Those are not there. That is not Blinding Beam. It's just Feeling of Dread. So we see Sean's hand. He does have a copy of that Essence Scatter, that Restoration Angel that we know about, and a Azorius Charm as well. And it looks like we're going to see an attack here. As you see, yeah, he's just going to start cracking back, slowing down Feeling of Dread, basically.
Yep, but this is the type of game that Ben wants to play.
Absolutely. As you're going to see a Spirit Token here on the end step. And we're going to see Sean slide in that 3rd Restoration Angel while Ben's shields are down. Now, one thing you also need to keep in mind with how this game is playing back and forth, Patrick, because it looks to be a racing situation, what people call the hidden mode on Azorius Charm, the lifelink mode, that could come into play here and really be a big deal.
So that angel gets unsummoned again. And Feeling of Dread is still at the ready here. I mean,
yes.
This is a horrible spot. This is a horrible spot for Sean.
And so now Sean is going to finally use that Azorius Charm, it looks like.
Yeah.
To probably put a Restoration Angel back on top. And you know, that's the difficulty because Azorius Charm, I mean, 3 modes, 3 good things to do with the card. You could certainly see an argument for the lifelink portion of this, but he's just too far behind now. And Feeling of Dread is just going to cause too much trouble. Now we are going to see Azorius Charm. Ben having a Dissipate in his hand right now as well, considering, am I going to Dissipate this? I mean, Dissipate here is pretty good, actually.
It's not bad. I mean, I'm working under the assumption here that we're targeting the angel, right?
I'm working under the same assumption, yes. I can't imagine him cantripping or lifelinking here, so.
Right.
And you are going to see Dissipate take care of this. And that was Ben's draw step for the turn, so a favorable draw for him. Sean ends up taking 8 damage, pushing down to 5, and he is facing what looks to be a lethal attack next turn.
And again, for those of you who are either just tuning in or can't really see Ben's graveyard, there is a Feeling of Dread in there still.
Yes, the key.
Yeah.
Sean draws his card. He draws a Detention Sphere. Now that is interesting.
And you can see him sort of furrow his brow a little bit. Hey, do we want to just start over here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you see him kind of shaking his head a little bit. I guess I can clear out 4. That's not so bad.
I can kill 4 Restoration Angels. That's pretty sweet. 2 of them are mine, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah, I can also clear out 2 Spirit Tokens, but that doesn't really seem to be ideal. I mean, as odd as it is to pull the trigger on this, is you see him move to his attack step. Ben can't Feeling of Dread, so he is going to take a look. Ben can't Feeling of Dread right now. Flashback is 1 blue, 1 colorless. So he can just come across here, put Ben down to 6, and then Detention Sphere plus, assuming he has another white mana, yeah, Detention Sphere plus have Restoration Angel at the ready.
Sure.
Doesn't seem like a bad turn.
I mean, if we're attacking here, I think we're almost certainly casting the Detention Sphere.
I am inclined to agree with you. So we see him rearranging his mana here. And it's almost begrudgingly gonna pull the trigger.
Just double checking to make sure this is.
Yeah, can't believe this is gonna happen. But Restoration Angels, all of you, leave.
Yep, you're under arrest, all of you. Yeah, we still have our angel.
We still have our angel. We still have our essence.
We need to cast this now, and Sean's on board.
And Sean passes right back. So Sean, I'd say ahead on the board now. Life Total Ben is ahead, but Sean is ahead on the board. And you see Ben does draw an Unsummon for the turn. See exactly what Ben wants to get going here. He has an Unsummon in his hand. He has Mortal Haunt, of course, at the ready, and then he has Feeling of Dread in the graveyard. So he has to balance his use of these resources to get those last points of damage through.
Yep. Oh, I'm not. I'm not positive he has another creature for the Haunt, which is the big problem.
Yeah. So you see Ben just does play his land and say go. So we know the last card is on summon. I'm Feeling of Dread. Sean's going to play that Clifftop Retreat. Ben going to cast Feeling of Dread. Okay, take care of that. All right, so he finally does blow the second half of that card. And now we see in Sean's graveyard, or in Sean's hands, excuse me, Patrick, Snapcaster Mage is there. But Ben draws one of his own. Boy. He draws Thought Scour, excuse me. Excuse me.
Really need a creature here.
Yes, he does. Draws Azorius Charm. Gonna come across for 2.
Can Ben find a way to get those last couple of points in? I mean, Sean's hand's loaded at this point.
Yeah.
You know,
no reach in Ben's deck, we know that.
yeah. The only thing that could be roughly described as reach is Runechanter's Pike. But that's not the same thing. He still needs to connect.
As we do see Sean activate a Desolate Lighthouse on the end step. Draw a card, discard a card. We do know that he does have those 2 Essence Scatters in his hand. He draws a Mountain, and he has a Snapcaster Mage there as well. So now Ben does really need to close this game out.
Yes.
Because now Sean's gonna have the ability to start filtering his draws with the Desolate Lighthouse, and we do see the Restoration Angel come across here. And we are going to see an Azorius Charm here from Ben. Gonna put that attacker back on top.
But we can still, we can even still loot and get our Angel back if we wanted to. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Sean does just pass the turn back. Ben examines his graveyard. He's going to untap. Take a draw step. An island. And Ben says, all right, beatdowns. Do what I do best. And we're going to see some lands get moved around here.
What are we up to here?
So we're going to see Snapcaster Mage. And we'll see what that is targeting. You figure he probably wants to establish this, Patrick, as he's going to see a Azorius Charm of the token. He probably wants to establish this just because he knows he has Restoration Angel coming.
Yes.
So for the blink of that, plus being able to blink, plus activate Lighthouse, this is just good use of Sean's mana for the turn. And you are going to see a Lighthouse activation now. He's going to draw that Angel that was put back on top by Ben's Azorius Charm and discard that Mountain. So yeah, good turn there.
Very good use of resources. He still gets to kill one of the Spirit tokens, which is what would have happened anyway if he had just played Restoration Angel to block. Yep. And now he has Snapcaster at the ready as well. And Ben is obviously quite low himself.
He can get back to doing what he wants to do, which is attacking Ben's life total.
Yep.
So, favorable spot here for Sean outside of being at 2 life.
Yep. Revelation is the one, like that. I have to assume we're going to Essence Scatter this thing.
Yeah,
right?
I think that there's nothing better coming here to counter. So he's just going to take care of that right now. Essence Scatter there from Sean, one of his 2 copies. Not looking so bad.
Yeah, things are now quite bad for Ben.
Ben serving in with that Spirit token, knowing that the Restoration Angel is there. But we know that Ben has an Unsummon in his hand, and it looks like he's just going to... He just probably feels like he just has to use it, as he's going to target the Snapcaster Mage. We'll see what Sean is going to do here as he does bounce the Restoration Angel to get in that 1 point of damage. Ben trying to get that last point through. Just hanging around 4-1. Of course, if at any point Sean just draws one of those red removal spells.
Or Slayer Stronghold.
Or Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah.
Which is what he's drawn for the turn. We'll see if he's going to cast that. He does.
Ben has no cards in hand, right?
Yeah. I don't think he can activate more than Haunt. Maybe Sean second guesses himself here. Then again, maybe not.
Okay.
He even has access to 4 mana for Lighthouse and for Restoration Angel. It seems almost foolproof. You guys
I would attack.
Yeah, as you see Thundermaw Hellkite on the screen,
Thundermaw
Hellkite wraps it up. What does it? No. That's right, Essence Scatter. Yeah, Essence Scatter. Never mind. He blocks her, he goes to 2. Now Ben can seize. Okay, we were a little hasty.
Yeah.
So, Sean Johnson, up a game with blue, white, red mid-range.
Yep.
And what I think you and I would consider, and based off of Mark Herberholtz's match earlier, and previous matches, Matt Nass versus Max Tietz, the Star Citizens Invitational, a favorable matchup for Ben.
Yeah, I mean, the deck's a lot more efficient and streamlined. Now, Sean in that game basically drew none of his red cards except for Thundermaw, right? He wasn't trying to cobble together value out of the pillars and searing spears that we've seen
Correct.
other blue-white-red players choke on in this matchup.
Yeah.
So he got basically the blue-white draw with a Thundermaw Hellkite, which is totally fine.
Absolutely. And it certainly didn't hurt that the Desolate Lighthouse was able to get activated twice, filter his draws, let him get through some of the garbage, see an extra card per turn.
Yeah. The Lighthouse was good that game. Slayer Stronghold would have been really good that game too. When there's that angel battle.
Yeah.
Would have been insane, actually.
I mean, giving it +2/+0 and Vigilance does not hurt at all. Would have been very, very good in that particular game. Now, I know, Patrick, that you have Ben's deck list in front of you. What's going to help him? What's going to turn it?
3 Dispels and a Negate and 2 Jaces and 3 Supreme Verdics if he wants to bring in the Wraths. That's the good stuff.
Okay.
He's got Drog Skull Reaver, which I don't think is really for this matchup. I mean, particularly with Sean showing, main deck Essence Scatter, I don't think you want to be in 7 and 8 mana creature land.
Yeah.
But Dispel, Negate, and Jace certainly very good, and then Supreme Verdict as well if he wants to try to take that path.
Now, taking a look here at Sean's deck list, and Sean's deck list is a lot different than the his deck list is a lot different than the previous blue red mid-range deck that we saw on camera. You're going to find just a lot of different cards here. 2 copies of Thunderbolt.
I like a Thunderbolt.
I like a Thunderbolt a lot. Obviously, we just saw Restoration Angel battles taking place, so I like that a lot. 2 copies of Spectral Flight for the kind of I win with Geist draft, which is an interesting route to be taking. You see a copy of Feeling of Dread. You see a 4th copy of Pillar of Flame. Not so much here. Additional copy of Detention Sphere. 2 copies of Jace Memory Adept, which both players have access to. You could be boarding those in just the Legend rule.
Yes.
2 copies of Counterflux, which would bring Sean up to 4 copies of that. A great card in the mirror, along with 2 copies of Dispel and 2 copies of Supreme Verdict. So he has a lot of cards, Patrick, that he can kind of sideboard out those bad red cards, those Searing Spears and those Pillar of Flames, and even Detention Sphere is a little bit iffy here. And siding is some really, really nice cards.
I think Thunderbolt is an awesome sideboard card to have here.
I think so too.
If you look at these matchups, I'm assuming the blue-white-red mirror is very similar, but these games are all about Restoration Angel. Almost all the combat damage that gets dealt is through Restoration Angel. A lot of the good blocking that gets done is also through Restoration Angel, and so having a card in your sideboard that interacts well with Snapcaster Mage, that can go to the head if Restoration Angel doesn't present itself, and is an awesome answer to that card, I think is a very excellent use of sideboard space by Sean.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, it seems like that's going to be a card that plays a pretty interesting role here. But one thing that's interesting about this deck is that we don't typically see, we see like maybe 1, maybe 2 copies of Counterflux. We see a lot of copies of Counterflux here, and what we see when we take a look at this deck, you see 2 copies of Essence Scatter in the main deck, a card you typically don't find in the main. What it says to me is Sean built his deck in mind of beating like blue-white-red mid-range and blue-white Geist, and not really so concerned about these decks that have Cavernous Souls like the black-red zombies, or like a mid-range green decks. It seems like he's more hell-bent on beating like these blue-white mirror type decks.
Yeah, and Counterflux seems like an awesome card to have in your sideboard if you're working under the assumption that most of these other similar decks are going to be bringing in Dispel.
Yes.
This is just, I definitely counter your Restoration Angel, or your Thundermaw Hellkite, or your Jace, or whatever, or your Sphinx's Revelation. Yep. There's no engineering you can set up to get to a spot where you have your awesome card with Dispel backup. Yep. And when we saw, Mark play on camera in round 1, Dispel was bananas against his blue-white-red opponent.
Completely absurd.
Yeah. So I think Counterflux is a pretty awesome sideboard card to have here, because a lot of these blue-white decks and blue-white-red decks are bringing in a bunch of Dispels.
No, I like, as far as blue-red mid-range decks go, you can have your opinion on this deck one way or the other, but it seems like that this particular version that Sean Johnson is playing, it seems like, he has plans in mind with what he is trying to accomplish here.
Yes.
And it's very clear that he is looking, it seems like he's pretty well set up against, zombies, he's pretty well set up against these blue-white Geist decks, maybe a little bit softer to your Naya mid-range decks, and, maybe your Reanimator type decks, but for this matchup, it seems like he's doing okay. So we see Augur of Bolas miss there for Ben.
And I think Ben is missing a second blue mana and has Dissipate in hand, so.
You're going to see a Steam Fence there from Sean. He's just going to pass back. Ben does draw an island.
Okay.
So sitting okay. We'll see if he has a Geist. As you know, one of the things that you see on the deck list here, and I saw this on Mark's as well, as normally in this Geist of St. Trash deck you see 4 Geists, but I see on the deck list in front of me they scribbled out the 4 and put a 3 instead.
Yep. No, I mean, if you're anticipating certainly a lot of Naya decks and more red-green, green-white, you know, 4 Geist of St. Trash is a lot to have.
Yeah. Makes you a little bit softer against this deck, though, as we are going to see just a Hallowed Fountain here from Sean. Ben with a Think Twice on Sean's end step. Get that velocity going for his deck. Take a draw, draws Dispel. Azorius Charm was his draw off of the Think Twice. And you do see Cavern of Souls in Ben's hand, and they are just playing 1 copy of that, and we'll see what he chooses to name. Probably
Angel. I think because he has Restoration Angel in hand.
And it is confirmed that it is naming Angel, and that's exactly what Sean drew for the turn. He drew into Spell, excuse me. It looks like Restoration Angel in the corner there. Well, we're going to see a Sulfur Falls. So we're going to see some Dispel Wars, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Coming shortly to a theater near you. But right now, we're going to see Geist of St. Trash
This is gutsy. I mean, this is giving Ben a huge opening here to just land his Restoration Angel, or just, you know, be able to use a counter spell. I guess he has to spell back up, so he could counter back over that, but
it's kind of interesting too, right? Like, you know, he plays it with as we're going to see the Restoration Angel blink the Augur Bolus. He did play it with that mana open, kind of like, I dare you to counter this, because I'm ready to spell back.
All right, and Ben has missed again on his Augur trigger.
Augur is not his friend. Unsummon drawn for Ben. If any would have liked to see that off the Augur. And he put a Pike on the bottom too.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal there. Patrick, you do see 2 copies of Unsummon. You see a Dispel. You see an Azorius Charm in Ben's hand. So, and you see that Dissipate. It looks like he's going to cycle Azorius Charm. That's going to resolve.
What do you pick up there? A Thought
Scour. You know, it kind of looks like he's looking for a land drop, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he is without lands, so.
You know, I'm not quite sure exactly what he's searching for. Maybe he's like, I'm kind of desperate for an answer to this Geist of St. Traff, but we see he's just going to hold back the Restoration Angel and maybe give it his best shot to block.
Yeah, he certainly can't race here, and his hand's not set up to be able to defend himself against many things because it's hard for him to cast his counters. He's missing colored mana, so he needs to just sort of hold the fort for a little while here until his hand gets a bit better.
A tough situation here for Ben. I mean, Cavern of Souls, again, this is what's kind of great about this format. There's these opportunity costs that come by playing these lands.
Yeah, definitely when you have a bunch of cheap cantrips and Azorius Charms and Dissipates and stuff, Cavern is not a freebie.
Yeah.
Not by any stretch.
As we're going to see a Thought Scour from Ben on the end step, as Sean did just pass back without attack. Now, Patrick, Sean does have an Azorius Charm in his hand. You know, he could have attacked. Maybe Ben blocks the Restoration Angel, he charms him back to the top of the deck. You know, do you feel okay passing there just with this 5 mana up? Or?
Yeah, for sure. I think that attacking, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to, you know, Azorius Charm the Restoration Angel and leave an Augur in play and let him draw an Angel. It just seems like to hit him from 20 to 16 doesn't seem like the right time.
Okay.
I mean, Ben's got so many different, you know, ways of protecting himself, and you need to make sure the board's fairly overwhelming before you start giving up tempo and card advantage in that way, I feel like.
And now Ben's going on the aggressive side. He's coming in with Restoration Angel right now. Looks as though Sean has taken it. And Ben might just kick it right back. That's what he does. So a mitt full of instants, and of course when you're playing against these blue-white flash/Geist decks, could be anything.
Yeah.
A lot for Sean to think about.
Very challenging.
He is coming across here with Geist of St. Traff. You see the Angel. And now we're going to see Snapcaster Mage. Pounce right on in.
And I assume that we're just going to be trying to get a block on the Geist of St. Traff, maybe a little bit of value out of our graveyard here.
Yeah.
Not sure what we have a target on just yet.
Now Sean really thinking about, you know, do I want that to resolve? What I want to do with this is we're going to see He's fingering the mana. We're going to see Searing Spear. Target that before blockers. With that effect, likely with the targeting on the stack. But we will get confirmation on exactly what that Snapcaster Mage is targeting briefly.
So we're just waiting to see if, I suppose, if Ben's going to be responding to this. I mean, we know he has, what, Dispel, Dissipate in hand?
Yeah, but just 3 mana. Also 2 unsummons there as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always the unique play of unsummoning a Snapcaster Mage and then recasting it around this Searing Spear.
Yeah.
This is going to be a turn where both players are really jockeying back and forth, as you do see a Dispel here from Ben. You're going to see a Dispel back here from Sean.
And now...
You going to let it go?
I'm a little... Snapcaster Mage targeted the Azorius Charm, which I suppose is why Ben is not going to be unsummoning his Snapcaster here.
And just bottoms up the Angel.
Yep.
Gets in front of the guys, doesn't take any damage. Okay. So not a bad exchange.
It's a little, it's a little rough. Ben's very light on resources. He doesn't have much in the way of philosophy, pressure on the board, no answers to Geist Insane Trapped. I mean, he can definitely fend this off for a while, but in terms of actually finding some positive momentum, he's pretty far away.
Because now we do see Restoration Angel come across again.
There's an untap. So again, mulling over his options. Ben sliding over hand of Dissipate, Dispel, and 2 unsummons, it appears.
That is correct. So he has all of this. He has some nice temporary effects. He has some counter magic. Doesn't have a great clock.
Yep.
Is the problem.
And this is, talking about the sideboarding a little bit, this is a place where Thunderbolt would be insane.
Yeah.
Because, Ben's leaning so heavily on this Restoration Angel to give him enough, momentum and power to win this game, even though Ben's got these whatever reactive tools he has in his hand, they're all predicated on being able to attack for 3 and turn with that Restoration Angel. Yep. That's the only way that the spells and unsummons make any difference. And if his Angel got Thunderbolted here, it would just be very, very hard for Ben to win.
Complete nightmare. Now here's an interesting play, Patrick, as we see a Sphinx's Revelation in Sean's hand. And, I don't know how realistic it is, but, maybe unsummoning the Restoration Angel and then recasting it to kind of ambush the Geist Insane Trap. But, I mean, that would have to mean that Sean has nothing.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that play only works if Sean has actual nothing to do.
It's hard to really convince yourself that that's the right play to make.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And now Ben... So, I really like the way that Ben has managed the life total of this game, because now he's attacking him for a 3-turn clock.
Right.
We went from 18 to 15, 15 to 12, and now Ben is actually serving in with both of his guys now where he wasn't before.
Yep.
So now the race is on.
Right, and that turn, that sequence there is very subtle, but I think it's something of a turning point in this match where Sean did actually nothing on his turn with any of his mana. Didn't even try to cast anything. And now, Ben shortened the game from down to a 3, now 2-turn clock, and basically Sean took an entire turn off of not doing anything.
Yep.
I think it was important. I'm not sure exactly what was in Sean's hand. I know that he had, a Sphinx's Revelation. I think it was really important for him to do something that turn.
So we do see him just pass back now. Angel's going to go away. Ben is content with how things are.
Yeah.
Ben just holding a mid full of things. He does draw a land.
And that's a huge draw, too. That's a potential chump blocker as well.
So we can see him come across for 4 again. He's going to knock Sean down to 4. So Ben done a really nice job as far as life total management on both sides.
Yeah.
Both Sean's and his own.
And now his hand's actually fairly loaded.
And I'm sure he's thinking, I wish I had one more blue source. But other than that, I think he's sitting pretty well right now with a couple copies of Unsummon, a copy of Dispel, a Dissipate there, the Moorland Haunt being able to create a chump blocker. He's doing okay.
And that's again another turn that Sean just took off.
Yep.
And now is he gonna try to Azorius Charm for a lifelink here? But now, you know, Ben's set up to fight this counter war certainly.
See if Ben is okay going down to 4. Does he want to unsummon maybe the Angel to buy himself a little bit of breathing room? And that's exactly what he's going to do.
Also, he just has to use his mana on something.
Yeah.
Right? He can't just sit here saying, "Go." This is what's getting Sean into trouble. Is like he's just had 2 turns in a row where he hasn't cast anything.
Yep. You see the unsummon happen. Ben is going to go down to 8.
You can't take it with you, man. Yeah, you gotta.
You don't get extra points.
Yeah.
For having spells at the end. Still had all these, as it were.
I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with Ben here. I thought this game wasn't even gonna be close.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like it.
And did we just say go again?
And no spell there from Sean. Ben's gonna make a token. Really makes you wonder what Sean's threatening over there. He's been holding that Sphinx Revelation for a long time. Drawing an island is huge there.
Yeah, oh yeah. Now
huge draw.
Totally set up to fight this counter war.
Now you're going to see a Azorius Charm. And the fight is going to begin. Dispel. We're going to see a Dispel back.
Alright, so those are going to resolve. Azorius Charm is still on the stack.
Dispel. Ben showed an unsummon on accident there. How much counter magic do you have?
I think he's got 2 Snapcasters and Sphinx Revelation. So I don't think he has enough to fight over the Dissipate that's in Ben's hand as well.
Got Snapcaster Mage.
Now, oddly enough, Ben actually needs, if he dissipates this, he's in trouble because he can go Snapcaster with his 3 mana left over. You can go Snapcaster Dissipate. He actually needs to let the Snapcaster resolve and then use the Dissipate on whatever gets flashed back. Correct. So there's another, which Ben
Dissipate
does.
Somehow does.
Somehow knows.
Dissipate that.
And now that's Xaxes.
Well, yeah, that is exactly. You're right. Because that gets countered. Snapcaster Mage can get in front of the Augur of Bolas.
So there's 4
then he takes 4 in the air. Oh, Benny.
Oh, Benny. The curious case of Benjamin.
That is wow. How does he know not to dissipate the guy?
I mean, I guess he knows it turns on another out, right? But that was, I gotta say, I don't know what the hell happened in that game. I have no idea how Ben got that one.
When they put that on the replay, I'm going to sit back and watch that game at some point.
Yeah, Ben just I mean, I think at a certain point there, you know, Sean's hand started getting glutted with like pretty expensive action. He had Sphinx Revelation plus those Snapcasters, and the Snapcasters contextually are kind of expensive cards. He needed to just cast. He needed to cast something.
He had to do something.
something.
And you know, he ends the game with that Sphinx Revelation in his hand. There was 2 turns, maybe even 3 turns. I don't know the exact count, where you have the opportunity to just slam that into a counterspell, which isn't ideal because obviously you want your awesome card to resolve, but that's one less counterspell you have to play around later, which is important.
I mean, he could have fired it off. Well, I mean, for example, he can fire it off, leave one up, and dispel something, right?
Yeah.
And it's 2 counters out of Ben's hand. Now you want tap. Now you have a hand with Snapcaster Mage at the minimum, plus whatever else.
Yeah.
And now, you know, we can find something to do. I'm sure. But yeah, I think just passing back those 2 consecutive turns, he just didn't have enough mana to fight over everything. He was in firm control of the game from like a board position perspective, everything. But Ben was able to just eke it out because Ben was just more efficient with his mana.
I think that's a case right there where, you know, it's very easy for him to just untap, draw his card, attack with Geist Thing Trash, see what happens. And I don't think that he ever really established a game plan outside of doing that. You know?
Right.
Because what happened was, you know, Ben was kind of playing defensively, and this is again something that we talked about during the broadcast a little bit earlier. Then he turned the tide, but he turned the tide oh so suddenly because he was attacking the Restoration Angel, but then finally that Augur of Bolas said, hey, I'm coming in here too.
Yeah.
And then everything turned, and it went from, you know, from 18 to 15, 15 to 12, down to 8, down to 4, and we're not in the same situation anymore.
Also worth knowing that he attacked him for exact lethal.
Yes.
So that auger attack is
that auger attack
huge deal.
changed everything. And it's so subtle because as an opponent, you're just thinking, oh, okay, like auger's getting in here now too. That's kind of interesting. And you know, things just really, really changed that game, but in such a subtle way.
Yeah, that was a it's subtle stuff, right?
Yes.
It's real subtle stuff, but that was a very impressive game.
So now we see both players taking a look at their opening 7. I believe Sean has already kept his 7, and we have Benny looking over his 6 quite a bit. Deciding if he's going to keep this one.
He's going to mulligan.
He's going to take a mulligan.
Benny B. Down's not the type of man to Hollywood for the camera. If he's taking like that, it's a borderline hand.
It's just so important, and I am guilty. I am certainly guilty of this. I've done this quite a bit in games that get long and drawn out like that. Just kind of having to take that step back and reassess.
Yep.
Because it's so easy to just keep, his hand is all instants. And they're all good cards. It's like 2 Snapcaster Mages, a couple Dispels, Sphinx Revelation. If I'm in that position with that hand, I'm thinking, okay, like, I don't think I'm losing. You know, I've got all these great cards in my hand. I've got, like, all this versatility of things I can do. When in reality, you know, he has to think to himself, I probably have to run one of these cards into a counterspell just to get, like, that counterspell out of his hand.
Yep.
And that's a strange, like, thought process to take. Of the, you know, maybe it's just correct to just go, Sphinx Revelation, you need to counter this. Or I need you to counter this.
Well, yeah, I think it's very easy to get in the mindset of Sean. It's like, well, I'm winning the race. While they're attacking 4-3 or 6-4, I have a ton of gas in my hand, so I can just sort of chill out and wait for Ben to make an action, and then I can respond as appropriate. Where the whole time Ben was actually sculpting the game to compress the game down and win the damage race before Sean could really deploy his cards. So Sean was actually in more danger the whole time than it actually, you know.
Did he ever realize?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. As we see, Ben does keep his 6. We are off here. We're going to see an auger.
And I believe
he was
Ben
thinking about it.
I believe Ben kept a 1-lander there on the draw with Thought Scour. So now he has Think Twice, Augur, Scour. He's got a lot of cards to give him some velocity here.
And what he's done is dodged a huge bullet.
Yes.
With no Geist. No Geist from Sean. And he's found 2 lands, one off of the Think Twice, one for his draw step. Glacial Fortress not joining us just yet. We're going to start with Augur of Bolas. 1, 2, and 3.
Ooh, Benny finally found a spell.
Well done. Augur actually helping Ben this game. You see Glacial Fortress, and he's going to pass back, just upping the velocity on his deck, making sure he hits his land drops, finds his cantrips, so he can get everything online. And now we see Geist St. Draft.
What do you mean did it help him? Lumigrid Warden was just fine last game.
That's touche.
Blocked some stuff, attacked once.
Dealt a couple points of damage, as we're going to see Thought Scour here, turn over Restoration Angel and a mystery card. Ben draws a card, draws another card, draws Rune Chanter's Pike, and he does have that 4th land. The other card that he did reveal, I can't quite make it out actually, so I won't guess at it. Well, he's going to get that Restoration Angel in right now.
Yep. Again, he gets to hold down the 4 for this turn unless Sean makes a huge commitment to the board.
Yep.
And then the following turn, or maybe not necessarily the following turn, but he's setting up a spot where he can land a pike and then start going to work.
Try to win that damage race again.
Yep.
And we are going to see Ben reveal Dissipate off of Augur of Bolas, put the other 2 away, and pass it over.
This would be another good spot for Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt or Thunder Maw.
Yeah, either's fine. Cards with Thunder.
Doesn't look like Sean has either one right now, so now he's going to have to craft a plan as we see him play a Glacial Fortress. And I also see a Moorland Haunt over there in his hand. I see a red card he's thumbing through, which I believe is a Searing Spear. And what you
Feeling of Dread?
What you see is that 1 copy of Feeling of Dread in his sideboard coming into play here. Tapping those guys, clearing the way for Geist. That's going to knock Benny down to 14.
And Ben's got to, I mean, that's, you know, it's a 6 shot or whatever, but Ben's got to be relieved. That's all that happened that turn because he was exposed there. Tapped out, a bunch of horrible stuff could have happened. So for it to only be a Feeling of Dread.
Kind of feels like a win, right?
Yeah. It would be nice, obviously he would prefer to have a land drop here, but all told that was, Sean could have certainly done much worse to Ben that turn.
Yeah. So now Ben has a lot of options in his hand. You guys can see his hand at home a little bit there. He's got a Dissipate that he found from Augur of Bolas. He has a Thought Scour, an Azorius Charm, a Runechanter's Pike, an Augur of Bolas. I believe there's a Snapcaster Mage hiding in there as well. So he's got a lot of things that he can do. He's a little bit choked on mana right now.
Yeah, I think that was what he's thinking about, was whether or not he wants to spend a mana right now to try to dig for a land.
He turns over 2, draws 1.
Yep, big draw.
Yeah, pretty important that he hits his land drop here. So a lot of options, and this is just your classic case, as we've said multiple times today. You got to get those spells out of his hand now.
Yep, and I really like playing Augur here as well, because it's very important for him to get a third blocker into play to try to mitigate Feeling of Dread.
Yep. As we are going to see, Ben reveals a Dispel now, so Dispel can actually take care of Feeling of Dread if that's what Ben wants to fight over. As we do see Sean draw Counterflux for the turn.
I feel like Ben is just inevitably pulling ahead here.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
We're going to see Desolate Lighthouse come into play here from Sean. That's actually a lot more relevant than it looks, but he's going to be able to filter out some of his bad cards. Maybe find that card that, like a Thunderbolt that we were talking about. Yeah. A card that could really turn things around for him right now. Maybe find that Thundermaw Hellkite, but we are going to see Feeling of Dread here from Sean.
I assume we're just, if we're Ben here, I assume we're not fighting over this. We're probably just happy to take 4.
Yep.
Because you can still block the Geist with the remaining Augur. And this is again why it was very important for Ben to get that Augur into play last turn.
Yep. You do see him just jump in front. Angel Token will be incoming in a moment, I'm sure. Assuming that he did remember the trigger for the Geist Entrapped.
Perhaps that's perhaps that's up for debate right now.
We will find out.
All right, so it looks like the trigger was missed. So that is now that makes that Feeling of Dread, that turn again disastrous for Sean.
Ben is going to cycle and draw a card here, so that's a tough one there for Sean.
Yep.
So we are going to see Ben just cycle the Azorius Charm, puts his planes into play.
I assume we're going for Pike here, right? We have plenty of stuff to fight over it with.
See if he chooses to establish. He wants to establish Pike. So we're going to see an attack with Restoration Angel. Ben is going to start going to work on Sean's life total now. He's got a lot of options, of course. He can choose to establish Pike at this point. He's got Sphinx's Revelation.
Bunch of counters, yeah.
A bunch of counters. Exactly what he wants to do is unclear. If Sean, let's say for example, activates Desolate Lighthouse in the end step, I think Ben just slams down Sphinx's Revelation for 3.
Yeah.
Draw 3, move up to 17, that sort of thing.
He opted not to Lighthouse there.
Maybe.
Well, he has Counterflux in hand, right? He wants to keep his mana up.
Yep. Doesn't want to put the shields down. Going to play Glacial Fortress here for the turn.
But again, this is, what we were talking about, again, in round 1 with the Herberhole Smash. Look how often Ben is tapping out versus how often Sean is tapping out. Yeah, it's just deploying things more efficiently.
Now you're going to see Searing Spear. Searing Spear going to try to take out Augur Bolas.
And yeah, Ben's happy to start fighting over this.
I think you're very happy to trade your spell with the Searing Spear.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that would be the case in most situations, but the one that we're currently in, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I mean, Sean's only card of note here is that Geist Entrapped, right? As long as that's on lock and you're hitting with your Restoration Angel, you got to be happy with the way the game's proceeding.
So we see Ben did Flashback Think twice at the end of Sean's turn. Just a little bit more velocity for his deck, making sure that he can hit those land drops, be able to cast all of those spells. We're going to see Augur of Bolas number 3 here. We'll see if Sean tries to fight over this with that Singleton Counterflux that we know he has.
Yeah, it's so hard because all these cards are both not worth fighting over and devastating. Because it's all the same stuff, but all of it's so bad.
Yep. You have to pick and choose correctly.
Yeah, Augur,
I know it's hard.
Yeah, Augur is actually kind of subtly disastrous here. So he's responding here. Okay, so he's responding here, Sean is, with Revelation, which Ben is happy to allow him to have because it just gives him a spot to land his Pike.
And Ben revealed an unsummon from the Augur Abolition. Yeah, this is a great spot to reveal Pike now. As you saw Ben sift through his graveyard, probably counting, figure out how big it is. Because to me, it feels like the window is open for Pike here.
Once again, round 4.
I'm really surprised we're not hiking up here. Let's see. What do you think he's worried about?
It's a good question. It really is. But you see him just come across for 3, puts Sean down to 16. You know, maybe this could be an instant where maybe he wants to resolve his own Revelation for 2. You know, not quite sure if that's what Ben's thinking. Maybe he just wants to play Pike and say go with 3. You know, with 2 glacials and an island up. Maybe that's what his plan is here.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I guess Pike and Equip leaves him exposed to some potential harm.
Just something.
Yeah.
You know, this way he still has his Dissipate shield up, which is probably more important at this point. At least that's what Ben's thinking.
Yeah.
You see Sean take a draw step here. He did resolve a Sphinx Revelation 4-2 on Ben's turn, so he does have 3 fresh new cards. You see him going to play a Moorland Haunt here. See what he can do.
It looks like he's drawing a Thunderbolt. I believe I recognize that Weatherlight artwork.
Weatherlight.
Yeah.
The good old days. He's not going to cast it yet.
Just passes.
And Ben takes a draw step. Ben draws a Moorland Haunt. Pretty good draw there. He does check his graveyard for creatures. Also checking the size of the old Rune Chanter's Pike, which we will have confirmation for you guys on how big it is in just a moment from our spotter. As we are counting the instance there. He's going to put it on the Augur. Now, Patrick, really quickly, do you like this here on Augur, or would you rather have it on Restoration Agent?
I think it's a better hedge to put it on Augur Bolas because you're just, you know, one unsummon is really annoying if you don't split up your damage. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, so there's the Thunderbolt.
For those of you guys wondering at home, Rune Chanter's Pike currently is +5, and they even got the Weatherlight artwork for you on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, Shoebox. You know how to do it just right. Our director doing an awesome job. We see Unsummon here on the Restoration Angel in response to Thunderbolt.
Yep, pretty efficient way to use an Unsummon here, well, especially with so many Augurs in play.
Now you're going to see Sean finally cast that Counterflux, and for Ben immediately just let it go.
Yeah, not worth it.
You know, Ben may have a Dispel in his hand. He actually does, and he could have dispelled the Thunderbolt.
Yeah, but I think that's, you know, with him having Pike online, he's in this position of I'm really far ahead. That kind of exchange isn't going to be what cost me to lose this game. It's going to be something else.
Yes.
So I'm happy to let that go. Just keep my counters at the ready, and him being able to answer Pike and with all these instants plus my Moorland Haunt plus my handful of counters is very unlikely. So just whatever, you can have that one.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play into something bigger.
It's all about just picking and choosing your spots with that counter magic and those unsummons. Now we do see the Desolate Lighthouse activation here. Clifftop Retreat, the card drawn, along with a Steam Fence that's being discarded. And the last card in Sean's hand is a Thunderbolt. Yep. So a bit of flooding here. Lighthouse is going to help him mitigate that, but can he do it in time when he's facing down a Rune Chanter's Pike that's so big?
Yeah, it's tough.
That's the question. As we see Moorland Haunt activation here from Ben on the end step, a little Spirit Token. A little innocuous, but
just another point. They all add up.
And if you guys can see Ben's hand at home, there's a Dispel there, there's a Dissipate, there's a Snapcaster.
Ben might be ready to alpha. He might actually be ready to send in everything.
And there's a Sphinx Revelation there too. And now you see Ben is going to move. Looks like he's going to move the Pike over to the Flyer. Oh, yeah, this could be an Alpha Strike time now. 4, 5, I believe 6 is the count.
Four, 5.
Last card's negate. So
6.
So +6 here. Ben coming across with a Spirit Token. We do know Sean has that Thunderbolt, but again, Thunderbolt's just going to buy him time. It's not really the best use, as we're going to see. Thunderbolt here.
Yep.
Did leave him. Yeah, that gets this. Actually resolves. No, never mind. I take it back.
Yep. Again, he can always. I'm pretty sure that he can just one-shot Sean here with the Pike plus Spirits plus casting instance when he wants to fight over it.
Sure.
So there's no point in fighting over something that's a non-lethal attack.
Okay.
Just.
I figured, maybe he dispels and then does something and tries to build it all up. But Sean did have one card left in his hand, so I guess he's in such a favorable position right now that he doesn't really need to move.
Yeah.
Which is your point. We see a Desolate Lighthouse activation here from Sean. Discards a Slayer's Stronghold. Plays a Clifftop Retreat.
Now with one card in hand, I have to assume we're going to go for it because he can fight over whatever that last card is.
Yep. Now, if you're Ben here, are you making a Spirit on the end step, or are you just Revelating for 4?
Making a Spirit and going for the kill.
Okay.
He's got one card in hand. You just move the Pike onto your Spirit, swing with everything, and that should do it. I don't know what that last card would have to be to get him out of this, but with Ben having Dissipate plus Dispel, no Cavern.
We see Geist of St. Traff coming in. Now, I know the other card in Sean's hand is a Geist of St. Traff, so you see Ben jump right in front right away.
And that's
it. That's it. So Ben Lundquist, 2-1. Blue-white
that second
Geist.
game was a real impressive.
Yeah. And we saw it with Mark too in his first match. It's all about resource management. All of the resources, though. The cards in his hand, how to use his unsummons, how to use his counter magic, how to use his life total, how to use the opponent's life total against them. We saw it all.
Yeah.
We've seen it from both players today.
Right, and Ben and Mark, I keep harping on this, but I can't say it enough. The efficiency with which they use their mana, looking for ways, especially on the early turns, to tap out as much as possible.
Yep.
Both Sean and Mark's opponent struggle with they couldn't deploy all their cards efficiently enough. Sean definitely had more than enough power to win that second game. He just didn't have enough time to get it all out of his hand.
Yeah.